Welcome to Fighting Back. News talk, current events, political commentary. And now, here's your host, Ronald Lutters.
Well, welcome to the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ron Lutters, and I'm here with my favorite Ray Michaels.
Hello. Is there another Ray Michaels that may
There
not
was
be
a
your
plural
favorite?
on your name. I got chewed out that I said Ray Michael the other night.
You thought that there was two of me?
Well, anybody with two first names, I'm always suspect of.
Yeah, we all are.
And, that's just the way it goes. And guess who we have tonight coming back from a long vacation?
We have missed him terribly, that's for sure.
We have. And
our special correspondent.
Yes, and his name is Mr. Josh Bernstein. Welcome to the show, Josh.
From Josh Bernstein Uncensored.com.
Okay, and we need to switch over there. We've got him on a Zoom call. There he is.
Great to be back on the program.
Hey, your hair's looking good. You let it grow out while you were gone. Nice job. Any rate, we sure missed you. Tell us what's going on, and I know there's so much going on. They did capture the black racist who shot up a bunch of people. Tell us about that.
Yeah, look, this was a radical extremist individual whose social media was riddled with anti-white hatred, support for CRT, support for black liberation, and just, the FBI's most, not necessarily most wanted list, but on their most list, basically, up until 2019. But, of course, plotting some type of kidnapping scam with Governor Hitler, as I like to call
Whitmer
in
Michigan.
And, they took the eye off the real criminals. Instead, they were trying to create criminals to a state like Michigan, which, of course, it worked because of the voter. And they took the eye off the ball once again. The amount of people that they have completely missed is staggering. You had the Pulse nightclub many years ago. They got their eye off of that person. And it's truly a dragnet type situation with our intel community.
Well, Josh, I heard that some of these kidnappers, quote unquote, actually went to court and tell us what the verdict was.
None of them were guilty. None of them were guilty because
surprise.
This was a complete setup. It was a setup from the very beginning. Look, there's a reason why, and I hate to do it because, it's painstaking to do this, but I call the FBI what they truly are, a fascist bureau of intimidation. That's what the FBI stands for today. And any American that believes in freedom and liberty and prosperity ought to know who the real domestic enemies of the United States are. And that is our intel community, our American Pravda, North Korea style media, and our politicians, and frankly, from both parties. So if you love America, if you love the greatness of America, if you love the Constitution, if you love law and order, if you love everything about freedom and prosperity and liberty, then you should really have a disdain for your government, because your government is working overtime to destroy your rights and take them from you.
Well, Josh, we do have what we call rhinos. And then, of course, we have Ray the Pino.
Well, we have neocons as well.
Some neocons.
Yes.
And then we have...
And we have another term, too. We have dinos. Democrats in name only.
Well, there's very few of those.
Meaning that socialists?
Well, no, not necessarily. Meaning that many Democrats are basically running as Republicans. And they've been doing this for a very long time, 30, 40 years. They run as Republicans. They take the talking points. They pretend that they're going to be conservatives. And elected, they're not just rhinos or Republicans. No, they're actual Democrats. And then, of course, they govern as left-wing extremists, that's what they are.
So
and
are we talking about the...
times in order to stop this, we need to start running Republicans as Democrats. And we ought to do a test market. New York, Chicago, something like that. we don't want to do it across.
Well,
the
there are
country.
very few Democrats that run as Democrats. They actually run as socialists and Marxists.
But Josh, are you talking about like the Lisa Murkowskis and the Susan
Yeah.
Collins
And
I am.
Mitt,
Susan
Mitt
Collins.
Romneys?
Mittens.
Yeah.
These are Democrats. They're
Yes.
not Republicans.
No.
So Josh,
No.
tell us a little bit about this. The whole narrative in mainstream media with regard to what happened on January 6th was all about how everybody forced themselves in and they did this and they did this, and they didn't want to release the actual videotapes of what was going on because they had, 11,000 hours of this?
Yes.
And now they're starting to
When
slowly
Pelosi
release
doesn't want
this.
anybody to see
Yeah, but
that.
what are we seeing on these, Josh? You were there in the thick of it. What are we seeing on this?
Well, first and foremost, I was not on January 6th in Washington at all. Put that on.
No,
the
you
record.
weren't there. You weren't
No,
there.
but what we're finding out, and what we've known from the very beginning, is that this was never an insurrection. Okay, an entrapment by the intel community, by the Democrats, by the Republicans, of course, by the Capitol Police. Cannot be subjected to FOIA requests, which is why they are sitting right now on thousands and thousands of documents and videos. But Alan Dershowitz, to his credit, I'm not a big fan of him, but he is now representing some of these January 6th protesters. And I don't even call them protesters. I call them patriots because they have done absolutely nothing wrong. There's a video, I just dropped it tonight, as a matter of fact. I just got done putting it all together for everybody. And in that video, you clearly see the Capitol Police walking people in, holding the doors for them. They could have been holding pom-poms, okay, and cheering them on into the Capitol building.
So they weren't rushing, they weren't pushing, they
No.
weren't being disruptive,
None of that.
nothing like that.
None of that. And I'll tell you, you cannot have a violent entry charge when people are literally being walked in to the Capitol. Okay, there's no such thing as impeding the flow of a judicial proceeding. All these charges are absolutely garbage, and I'll go on record to say that I believe in the next few months or so, you're going to see mass, and I mean mass, exonerations. 250, 300, 400 people easily are going to have their charges dropped. And then that's when the fun starts, because that's when there'll be a class action lawsuit against the government, against the Capitol Police, against the FBI, against the media, and anybody, past, present, and future, that continues to call what happened on January 6th a, quote, insurrection, should be charged with misleading statements, false statements.
Josh, we had Ray had interviewed a fellow here from Tempe,
Yeah, Jake. Yeah.
He was the shaman, the gentleman with the horns,
Mhm.
I don't know anybody that would dress that way, but at any rate, he went into the Capitol.
I've seen you with paint on your face.
You've seen me with paint on my face?
Yeah.
No, that was just from eating a.
Well, no, you were painting outside.
Oh, okay.
The barn.
Painting the barn. Okay, but at any rate, this gentleman actually went into the Capitol. He was invited, as you know,
He said a prayer.
and he
was
asked if he
standing there.
could
He
say a prayer before
we
the
need a moment of
dais.
silence. You've seen this footage, Josh.
Lots of people have seen that.
And even the guards had bowed their heads as he said the prayer for the nation and for the Congress.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And that's an
Again,
insurrection.
And that was an
There was
insurrection?
Wow.
There was no violence. There was no violent entry. The only people that were violent were the people that were entrapping the peaceful people that were told to walk in to that entrapment.
Or the
trap, 'cause
plants.
That's what it was.
Or the plants that were government agents or
The
working on
Antifa.
behalf.
Yeah,
Well, the breaking news just broke a few moments ago. I was looking just before we went on the air, and Josh, you may not even be aware of this. The federal government now has at least admitted that there were 20 of their assets on the ground. Now, it didn't go into what they were doing on the ground, but it kind of sounds like maybe they were inciting a riot or trying to.
Interesting. You know, I'm
there was well more than 20.
I'm
Well,
curious. Would they be able to all the people that were wrongly arrested and been held hostage in these places that even congressmen and senators get into and see the conditions? Could they have a class action lawsuit against the federal government?
Absolutely. And I believe the lawyers are going to start lining up, because what's happening is this entire lie, which is what it was, is starting to unravel, because what's happening is now some of these January 6th patriots, not protesters, patriots, are now getting help, legal help, from lots of excellent legal minds. And the legal minds are saying, look, enough is enough. We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to subpoena this information. We're going to get these videos. We're going to prove and show. And one of the things that's happening right now, and I've mentioned this before, the Capitol Police do not have to abide by FOIA requests. Okay, they're one of the only, they're not even a branch of government, only one of the only entities of our government that does not have to answer to FOIA requests. That's a problem.
And
So
how did we get to that,
Republicans
Josh? How did we get to that?
immediately introduce legislation to change that.
Yes.
So who authorized this? Was it Congress that authorized that they don't have to abide by that FOIA request?
I believe it was. Yeah.
All right.
And by the way,
we need to
who
call and
do
make sure
the
that
Capitol
happens.
Police report to? Does anybody know, Josh?
The Capitol Police basically report to Congress for all intents
And
and
who's the
purposes.
boss over them?
Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Oh, the Speaker of the
Nancy
House.
Pelosi.
How interesting.
Was she related to Bella Lugosi?
Bela Lugosi. Yes, absolutely. The actor from what, the 50s and 60s,
He was.
I guess.
Oh, he was before
Dracula?
that, the 30s and 40s.
Bella
maybe.
Pelosi,
Yes,
huh?
Yeah, he was
even older than
Dracula.
that.
I know who he was.
She looks
My
like
uncle.
Dracula.
Any rate, golly.
Tell you
What else is going on, Josh?
You know, there's another organization out there. Look, I believe that the left is seriously coming for the children of
Oh.
America.
Oh, it's
And
horrible.
Clearly, everywhere you turn, you are seeing another sicko, another twisted individual, another person stealing, you know, medals and awards and records away from women. And then, of course, you have the debacle that is Disney Corporation. The Disney Corporation is a threat to our children and grandchildren. And I truly believe that they should be completely bankrupt. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is to have a full court, you know, press when it comes to boycotting the Disney Corporation, because that organization is no longer about the children, unless, of course, you believe in grooming those children for sexual gratification. Because there have been so many people that have been arrested with child pornography, with grooming,
Who
with
worked
child
directly
rape,
for the
child
Disney
abuse.
Corporation.
It's disgusting.
Oh, that
right?
was amazing when I saw that.
There's so much infiltration because Disney owns ABC as well as ESPN, and they own the Marvel Universe and lots of other things. So they're so intertwined. But
They're an international child trafficking and grooming operation. Okay, that's what Disney is these
Oh, you
days.
can't
and
say
it's
grooming.
so sad. It's so sad.
How
I
can
saw
you say
you-
grooming?
I
I've
saw
been
you grooming
hearing
right
that's a
before the
bad
show.
word
You
now.
combed your hair.
Yeah,
No.
that's a bad word anymore.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm
Well,
not really
you know,
doing
I
much of
did,
that.
I did see, and Josh, we talked about this briefly, but you guys go ahead and talk. I'm going to find this. It's
Well,
so
at any
funny.
rate, believe it or not, and I'm going to call it like it is. It's Democrats, unfortunately. As a political party, and I don't know how anybody can remain a Democrat anymore. For instance, just as we went on the air here, we just saw some numbers here that these are production costs in the United States are the highest now on record, Ray, in a short period of time.
Wow.
They're the highest production cost increase in the history of America. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Democrat Congress. People start waking up. You know, the Democrat Party. I'm really hopeful that the Democrat Party loses badly, that they cease to exist. They're just nothing
Exactly.
but
I believe they're a
leftists.
terrorist organization.
They're a
I really
leftist,
do.
and
And I've said
you
that
know
for a long
they're
time.
domestic terrorists, Josh.
They are.
You know, and they
are.
keep
They're
saying,
enemies of the state. That's what they are. Because if you think about it, how can you not call yourself a terrorist if you want to kill babies up to 28 days after they've been born? And one law in California wanted to not even have a time frame in there and basically kill babies up to 2 years old.
oh boy,
That's a terrorist organization for you. Any organization that wants to fight a law that tries to keep children safe from being groomed by sickos against it, I'm sorry. That's a terrorist organization.
well, Josh,
And
All right,
So-
so let me while we're talking about this was so funny. This was Allie Beth Stuckey, who is a conservative commentator.
Yeah, I know
and
who she is.
and Josh, we talked a little bit about this, but I think this is so funny. So listen to these words that she said. I'm quoting her, giving her full credit. It's not enough to be not a groomer. One must be actively anti-grooming. Those who defend themselves against accusations of grooming are simply expressing groomer fragility. They harbor secret groomer traits and must be shown the ways they've benefited from systematic grooming. Get educated on this, but also don't make those of us doing this work expend any more energy than we have to by teaching you. Resources on this stuff abound. I recommend starting with the brave. Anyway, she goes on. Well, she just goes on and on and on. But look her up, Ali Beth Stuckey. Look her up. I love that grooming fragility. If you're not actively anti-grooming, she's just using the
I've known
same.
her for years, even when I was back on Facebook, many moons ago, 2013, 14. She was a fan of the show then. We corresponded a little bit just through Facebook and stuff. So, yeah, another great patriot. There's a lot of great patriots out there that are continuing to fight each and every day, and God bless them.
Here's one last thing that she said. We must recognize the role of toxic matriarchy that is played in upholding systematic grooming. Looks like she's using a lot of the same words, but to the grooming side, which I think was brilliant.
The left likes to use the word fragility, right, all the time. And so,
and if you're not actively doing something, you're supporting it. That doesn't make
Josh,
any sense.
we have another guest, but we have two things. One, I posted today as a former accountant and an auditor most of my life. I posted something, Ray, and I said numbers don't lie. We're talking about inflation. I put inflation numbers don't lie, but Biden does.
Yeah.
and it's I've never seen a president that could tell
even
so many lies.
Even the birds don't like him anymore.
The man is a
it's
I don't know if it's because he's and there's another thing that I ask a question is he incompetent or is he sly like a fox? I think he's sly personally, because anybody that has been stealing money as long as the Biden crime family has, and it's pretty well documented now, Ray, that we have a real serious problem with his son and the big guy.
And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more. So Josh, from JoshBernsteinUncensored.com, we miss you here in the studio. We hope that you're doing well. We look forward to when you're coming back here. But if you get a chance, everybody out there listening, go to JoshBernsteinUncensored.com. He lays this stuff every single day. Gives you stuff that you won't hear anywhere else for months and months. Always breaking news.
And you'll
Josh,
hear it here.
That's right. And right here on Hub Radio, too. Thank you for bringing
and Hub
the news
TV
here.
USA.
And Hubber.
Hubber. Josh, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and good luck. We'll see you next week. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a short break, and we'll be back. More to come. You're going to learn a little bit about vagrancy and Sly and the Family Stone. Don't go away. Well, welcome back to Fighting Back. We are really excited here, Mr. Ray Michaels and me, because we have a gentleman here that I have listened to for a long time on the radio, and that's Sam Stone. And Sam has been a cornerstone in city politics.
Absolutely.
And he's a talk show host as well. And I want you to talk, because I always think needs to talk. So tell us where you came. He had a great job, by the way.
You're not giving him a chance to talk.
He had a great
you
job.
Want to hear him talk.
He had a great job, and that's how I know him, from the job that he was doing. Even before I met him, I heard of him. So here we are, Sam Stone.
Well, Ron, Ray, thank you for having me. I'm going to ride the R&R Railroad, and straight out of the liberal nightmare that I was born in Boston.
But you escaped.
Yeah, I escaped. Thank goodness,
You
escaped
turn
early.
out the lights when you left.
Apparently.
Now, did you wait for the big dig to start or finish before you left?
Well, no, I think I missed out because in the big dig you had $1 billion that went entirely unaccounted for, and my piece of that money. I felt like everyone else got theirs.
Where'd it go?
come
It just
on.
poof, it went away.
Well, so all the organized crime figures disappeared at the same time. I'm sure that had no coincidences.
All right, so Sam, how long have you been out here in Phoenix?
So this,
31?
Right, yeah.
yeah,
You look so young.
gosh,
He's
thank you
32
for
years
saying
old.
that. Yeah, no, I'm 31 and a half. That's,
Okay, good.
Came out here when he was 6 months.
To the beautiful state of Arizona.
So I was actually 14, going on 15 when I moved out here. My family moved out here. This was my father's second attempt at retirement, and he failed again. You know, he went back to work after he got here. I think he's on attempt number 4 right now, and probably failing pretty badly. He is not, as everyone in our family, we are not made for sitting around.
Most people aren't.
watch it happen.
And what happens is they retire after years, and then they
Hey, what do you say? There's 3 types of people?
3 types of people in the world. Sam, you've heard this before: people that watch things happen, people that make things happen, and people that say, "What happened?"
Well, wait a minute. What about me? Because I'm the one who makes fun of it.
Sure, thank you. All right, so you came out here. What part of the valley did you move to?
So I actually moved to Tucson first. The family moved
Tucson,
to Tucson,
yes.
yeah. And then I moved down here, obviously, right after high school, and have been here. Took a couple of sabbaticals
Yeah.
here and there. Did some work in Oklahoma, a few other places, Montana, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Bounced around a
Well
little
traveled.
bit, but keep coming back. I love the valley.
This
I love
is a
Phoenix.
place to live.
Well, you now have worked with favorite city council members for many, many years. But tell us a little bit about.
So it felt like many, many years. So I was the chief of Sal DeCicco for a touch less than 5 years, which
And a very good.
yeah, absolutely. He has been, I think, the difference. I always say the difference between Phoenix and Los Angeles is 2 votes and 1 voice. You have Jim Waring and Sal DeCicco voting very conservative agenda and
Yeah.
screaming his head off to make sure once in a while you get a win out of it.
I'm surprised he didn't have a heart attack this last couple of years. I
Well,
mean, it was insane what he had to go through.
It's hard to explain to people because in national politics, even in state politics, you deal with an issue in the city politics. You're dealing with the same issues every single year, the same getting brought back up. The Democrats don't stop. I mean, that's really their playbook. Whatever they failed to do this year, they're going to come back with again next year. So you got to win the same battle over and over and over. You got to fight it. It's really brutal. Heck, I didn't have a heart attack. Sal's been in office. I think this is now his 21st year, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And the average length of a chief of staff in his office is 9 months.
Wow. How'd
So
you
I-
last that long?
I set the record when I got to about 1.5 years.
But I hear
Wow.
that you're a glutton for punishment and that you may, well, you have thrown your hat in the ring for.
Insane is what you're saying.
That's a
No,
polite
I-
way to say it.
But
Yeah,
in a
no.
good way. In a good way.
Well, in the best way, in that I will run full speed into a wall with my, and then do it again. So no,
Wait, that is the position of the city council in
well,
Phoenix, isn't
that's
it?
a position of a Republican on the Phoenix
Yeah,
City
for
Council.
sure.
Yeah, no, you have a very left-leaning council. It used to be fairly well split, 5-4, and now it is 7-2.
So when did all this happen? Because I remember, I traveled in and out. I traveled all over for many, many years. But was it when the boy mayor, when he came in? Is that when everything started
So
changing?
It really started changing with Greg Stanton coming in there.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So after that.
Yeah, and it's really accelerated since then. So, for instance, last year you had a longtime city Democrat, which is a Democrat you can still work with. They understand you still need to do business. You need to have police. You need law. A guy named Michael Nowakowski. He'd been in there for a long time.
Yes.
He gets replaced by a woman named Yasemin Ansari, who has never lived in Phoenix a day. Grew up in Scottsdale, went to, I think it was Berkeley, then
boy.
interns in Nancy
That says a
Pelosi's
lot.
office, then goes and gets a job as a very junior staffer in the UN Department of Climate Change programs. But from a very downtown, and she raised partially from our now uber conservative Mayor Kate Gallego. She raised $2.4 million.
Wow.
For a city council run, and those races years ago used to top out at 300 grand.
Whoa.
And some of the districts are very small, in terms of voters. I mean, they're the same size,
Right.
but the participation in voting is very low.
Well,
in some
and that's one of them. So I think if I remember, there were about 14,000 in that race, and she barely.
100,000.
Yeah, I'm in District 6, which for people who know Phoenix is Arcadia.
Yeah.
Every district in over 200,000 people in it. Our district will have 80 to cast.
Yes.
And then again, you have the one she ran in where there's 14,000 and change votes cast.
All right, so you come here from Boston. It's culture shock from Boston.
Well,
when you're
so
14,
I was a
15
little
years
kid.
old. Yeah.
I was a little kid when we left Boston. So
But still, when I was in school here,
it was
I would
melt shock. I melted into the paint and I've never recovered.
Well, well, when we lived here and we did a field trip, right? We'd go to the zoo, or we'd go to, a little tiny museum. You come from Boston, you go to where the shot was heard around the world. You go into Lexington, Concord, and you go to, the Tea Party. So, yes, perspective, 10, 11, 12, up to 14, your field trips were to the place where our country was founded. Here, it's like, hey, we're going to go take a look at, something small. Back then.
Well, we've got Picacho Peak, where the last battle of the Civil War, the farthest west battle of the Civil War.
Yes, we
occurred.
do.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, but
and-
I was in field. So.
No, I don't think anyone can. It's still in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. Picacho is on halfway. Well, no, it's about 2/3 of the way to Tucson.
Yeah.
About 1/3.
Yeah, something worthy to be defended.
Look,
Yeah.
I am.
And it was a big
fan.
battle. 20
Yes. Yeah.
So you came, and so you come here. It's culture shock, but you embrace it so well. I mean, we've got such beautiful territory here. You want to go to the mountains, you go up to the mountains. See the desert, you got the desert. I mean, we have really a full range. What did you study? Did you go to U of A?
I went to U of A for 1 year where I studied.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think everybody does.
You
Yeah,
got
no,
a
that is-
BER degree.
That is
most,
correct.
most people were worried about COVID-19. I had co-ed-19. That was you survived that, man. You're in.
See, after you lived in the dorm that I did there, you're immune to everything for the rest of your life.
That's right. That's it. So you studied at U of A, and then where did you go?
So Lewis and Clark College, Portland, Oregon.
So you
So-
went to
Oregon?
The beast.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No wonder you're one
if,
tough
if
cookie.
you haven't traveled, Portland's motto is "Keep Portland we." That's their motto.
It is.
Do it.
No. Just have the crazies come.
But about Portland, a lot like here, there's everything in terms of the outdoors. There's everything right there. So I'm a big skier. I grew up once when I was 6. We moved to upstate New York, and I started skiing, kind of every day throughout the winter. When I went to Portland, you could drive an hour and a half and be up on Mount Hood and ski year round, and you could drive an hour and a half to the coast and
Yeah.
go to the beach.
Yeah.
Plus, again, the beer was really good.
But it was a lot more wet, wasn't it?
Well, so that was the thing. So
Mosquitoes.
yeah. Well, so upstate New York. You want to talk mosquitoes? Let's not even start.
Oh,
'cause
no, no,
upstate
no.
New York is the
No,
worst place on earth.
You have landing strips to land them.
Yeah,
That's
they have
how
landing
the
lights for
mosquitoes are.
mosquitoes.
Yeah, well,
Boston too.
Yeah,
apparently.
well,
So-
and upstate New York has these little teeny black flies that are small enough that you can't stop them with a screen, so
No
you just
see
get
'em?
chewed to death. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But no, I really enjoyed Portland except for the rain. The first year I was like, man, this is great. I've been cooking in the sun for a few years. Now it's time to enjoy some misty weather. The second year I was like, oh, it's raining again. By year 3, you're like opening the blinds in the morning going, do I
Didn't the
have
sun
to go
ever
out?
come out?
You don't even attempt to put on your nice cowboy boots.
No,
way.
no.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I like wearing them.
That's right. So you were up there for school. What'd you study?
So I studied political science and literature. Actually, I should clear up. I didn't graduate. So my senior year, I went on an outward bound wilderness leadership semester. And that was a blast right up until I took a fall and tore my shoulder out of the socket and all sorts of fun stuff.
Oh my! What were you doing? Hiking?
Yeah, so we were backpacking across a talus field, which is a rock field at the top of a mountain.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
stepped on a rock and it overturned, and I managed to catch myself from going head first down this thing. But in so doing, just destroyed my right shoulder. So I hiked about 2 days out with it like that.
Oh my gosh.
And then came to Tucson to rehab. Business was having some difficulties at that time, so my mother asked me to get involved and start working.
Well, Ray, I when I first heard, I was really impressed. I don't think enough news programs actually cover what goes on in the city. Way too much, we get state news, but really national.
And we should take.
And you've done that's came to that one, and that you said to Sam Stone, "Wow, I've always wanted to meet you." All the time.
Oh, for many years, right?
Well, no, this is
Yeah.
now it's called Breaking Battlegrounds. So
So this was Broken Potholes.
It was Broken
And you were
Potholes.
on Patriot?
yeah,
Is that
Patriot
right?
960
Yeah.
AM here in Phoenix.
And you talked about city events, what's going on, behind the scenes.
We mixed up city actually with national politics. So we had a lot of sort of national political figures. I've been doing political work for about 15 years now, and my business partner Chuck Warren and I have the show together, and we really start doing it just for fun. I want to talk about the city. He wants to talk about national politics. We find a way to coexist, and now we've actually been picked up in Florida.
Yeah, tell us about this. This
This
is
is
exciting.
exciting.
Now you are expanding.
Yeah.
This, you've now rebranded it as the name of Breaking Battlegrounds,
Yep.
and you're going into the Florida market, so you'll be in Arizona and Florida.
Yep.
Wow.
At least now, that's kind of that's a good safe state right
Yeah.
now. That is a
Well-
really fantastic political system, and they don't put up with you do.
Florida's done a brilliant job, and I tell you, one of the most underrated things. Everyone knows the influence of the Cubans in Florida, right?
Yes.
Obviously, coming from a socialist communist regime,
Yes.
they have long provided a backbone to politics. But actually, the breakdown in Venezuela is totally underrated because you have a huge number of Venezuelans who have emigrated to Florida in the last
Really?
couple of years, and they're there in Hispanic communities, and they tell stories. And look, what they're telling people is, listen, the same thing that I was told 20 years ago, same promises that were made to me in Venezuela are being made to all of us here now by these Democrats.
wow.
Wealth that they have in
and,
Venezuela.
the wealthiest country in Latin America, a paradise.
It was. I mean, these people had a high standard of living.
Yes.
Yeah, and we don't realize that can go away very, very quickly. Just look at it's a perfect
To see
example.
what's happened
Yeah.
under Biden.
Yeah.
When you have gone from wealth and plenty to hunting dogs in the street for meat, you're going to be pretty afraid of socialism and the consequences. You're going to be fully aware of what's been done to you, and they are.
Give us a preview of this new show, Breaking Battlegrounds,
Yep.
right? All right. So is it going to be the same type of concept, national? Are you changing that a little bit?
No, we're sticking with a lot of city content because, quite frankly, a lot of content equally in Phoenix
So you
to any other city.
So it won't be
Oh, yeah,
proprietary
yeah.
to Phoenix,
And we want to get into
City
that in just a
or
moment.
to
Yeah.
or to Florida City. It'll be nationwide city.
Yeah, we talk about issues. Often they're centric to Phoenix or to Florida, to Tampa, to some of the other areas there. But at the same time, the policies of the left are in New York City, in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, as they are being brought into Phoenix and other cities in red states.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Haven't we learned? Look at
and
San
Democrats
Francisco.
don't learn.
And here's the thing. Let's really cut the reason I Sam on the show today.
Oh, can I
is,
ask him one other question?
uh,
Just real quick.
may
Who's
you or
gonna be-
can you?
May I?
You may.
Thank you. Who's the very first guest? Do you have DeSantis coming on?
So we do have DeSantis. He's going to be on the program.
That is awesome.
In a couple of months, actually.
Please send him our best. He watches our show here.
Look, Ron DeSantis is an actual genius. That guy is one of the few people I really intellectually intimidating, quite frankly.
I really do enjoy it.
And you know what? And I hope that he holds Disney accountable, because right now, they control everything within the Disney property. They do their own policing. They do their own that. And
he's going to take almost of that away from what I've heard.
I think that it might be smart, all the issues that we've come
and
out.
by
Anyway,
the way, I wanted something about Governor Abbott. He was taking the people who came across the border illegally, and the federal government has done nothing about it. Put them on a bus and ship them to Washington, D.C. Shouldn't say ship on a bus. Them to Washington, D.C.
I heard that when
the first bus arrived today.
Wow. I heard that when they came over at the border, they said, okay, you're now in America. What are you going to do first? And they yelled, I'm going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, you heard now that they're getting phones, Obama phones.
So I don't want to rain on this parade, but we actually this week on the program had a national border reporter who told us the folks that they're shipping back to are the ones who have a destination on the East Coast.
Oh.
Texas is stunned. They're actually transporting people closer to their final destination on taxpayer dime. So if they're heading to Los Angeles or Phoenix or one of these,
ship them to DC.
This right here.
Got to ship them all to DC.
I paid for this.
Yeah, well, I paid for mine too. But if I
believe there's a largest state in Delaware that would be excellent to service.
Yes, I think that Delaware.
100%.
Now, the reason I really wanted Sam on is because one of the things that's happening when we go with this defund the police, and you've been through that with the city council, at night, 600 or 700 officers short right now, or more.
We are over 1,000 officers short. If you look at 10 years ago, we had about 1,000 more officers than we do today, and the city is about 20% bigger.
And so what's happened, we're getting these vagrants, these homeless people, and they're moving on to public lands, even in case of private land. And you tell us this story. You did such a fantastic job on Harris's show the other day. And I'd like to tell us about it.
I think people across the country are really waking up right now to the fact that we have a homelessness crisis that's exploding on. You've seen what it's done to San Francisco. You've seen what's done to all the big coasts, Los Angeles,
Venice Beach.
You see the violence in New York that's adjacent to this problem. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is the exact same set of policies that have adopted in your city, wherever you live. These are federalized that have completely failed. In fact, if you have someone who's mentally ill or drug addicted in your family, the first thing any expert would tell you is do not enable their behavior. You got to really push them, make it life tough, and get them into treatment. As a government, we take the opposite approach, and we actually enable chronic lifestyle, and the system is designed to do that. So I created this program called Housing First, where the idea is if we do anything, we have to start by placing them in permanent housing and not put any conditions on. What happens is within a month, it's a flop house, it's a drug pad, they get evicted, they're back on the street, and they won't go into treatment because it requires them to stop using. It requires them to address the mental health and emotions they've had. There are programs out there. Phoenix Rescue Mission is one. There's a great program in Tucson. I just forgot the name of, but Humberto Lopez started, where they really go services first and try to get them into treatment. That works. That actually gets people off the streets. What we're doing now is enabling. So if you're down there on the Homeless Services campus in downtown Phoenix, you have about 5 different organizations food. So you can actually, when it's breakfast time, like, I don't know if I want the pancakes over there. I think I'll go get an omelet today at this other joint. And, then you hang out all day. You got a locker. You hang out on the sidewalk in your tent. You can go out and panhandle. You make about $15 to $20 an hour. And then you have a lot of government benefits on top of it. So that money really just becomes the drug money, the alcohol money that fuels the lifestyle.
And no requirement for rehabilitation?
None, absolutely none. And we're told that it is cruel and inhumane. actually
Well,
push
see,
them
there's
to get
the
off
woke
the
No,
streets.
community.
no. When
You're
you
woke,
say
right?
they,
Yeah. Oh,
you say they say it. You said that this comes from a federal type of
yeah.
position.
So Housing First is actually a federal policy.
All right. So, but where's our state sovereignty and our state saying, I drive down the street and I'll see people panhandling on corners, and I said, I'm just trying to get to my work.
Well,
I'm trying to drive from here to there.
We've sold it. Right. We sold our sovereignty, and every other state has too, and that's Arizona's running something like a $4 to $5 billion surplus in our budget this year, right? But because we get some money from the federal government for these programs, we have to do it their way. So
Why
that's
do
what
we
happens.
accept that money?
No, we shouldn't. Or we should tell them, look, we're going to take your money and we're going to do it our way, and then you can sue us to try to get it back.
Well, yeah. I mean, if they give you the money, can they say you can only spend it for, if I go to the churches or $500, but it has to go only to this, what would that organization tell me?
Well, a lot of organizations would take money if that's our of your mission. But they wouldn't say, okay, we'll start doing it your way.
Saying,
No, I mean that's just ridiculous.
it's
So
the tail wagging the dog, isn't
that's
it?
exactly right. And the federal government, as you guys know, in just about everything, up its butt. I mean, the policy, the way a policy works in D.C., it must look very different than it does on the ground. The outcomes of those policies are absolute disaster, and I'm sorry, you cannot tell me in any way, shape, or form that putting someone on the street, leaving them out in 120-degree heat, and saying that's okay, just keep doing your drugs and hang out in your tent. That is, you're trying to tell me that's less humane than saying sorry, you can't live on the sidewalk. We're going to take you to treatment, or we're either going to arrest you or take you to treatment or move on. And if we arrest you, we're going to put you in a treatment program. I mean,
all right. So
tough love.
Let's just say
Exactly.
the
Tough love
city
is right.
council says you cannot live on the street. You cannot set up camp on a street, and you
Yep.
just set it up. And if they say I'm going to be here, I'm sorry, you can't be here. You
yeah,
just
no,
can't be
look,
here.
you start ticketing and arresting, and the cities, they use a ruling called Boise. I think it was Boise. It's out of the Ninth Circuit Court. It was a 5-4 decision.
Yeah. Good.
I mean, it was a split decision in the Ninth Circuit, right? Because they don't want to. And they ruled that you have to have more beds in your jurisdiction than you have. Can't ban urban. For the solution to that, you build a big, giant U.S. Army surplus tent city, and now you have enough beds.
Joe Arpaio, right? Huh?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, if it's good enough for our soldiers, it's good enough for a
You bet it is.
You know what?
person.
Amen
You bet
to
it is.
that.
Thank you,
I've
Sam.
always said that what people get if they've committed crimes against the country, the best that they get is what soldiers have to go through. If they're eating rations, then that's what they do in prison.
Yeah.
If they live in tents, then they have to live in tents in prison. If they, have to.
Well, I'm afraid
for-
to ask what it costs the federal government because they pay too much for everything. But I get
Well,
what you're going with.
no, surplus.
Yeah.
Surplus. You don't buy any new stuff. No.
No new stuff.
I think what a great idea.
World War
because
II
we have,
surplus.
we have,
Right,
we have
that
a
worked.
tremendous, and you know what? We should take BLM land, right? Because this is a federal
Yes.
thing. Take some of the BLM, set up a tent city, and if you don't want to be here, then we take you and we put you. But to be there, you have to be productive. You have to do
Well,
something.
I'm a big believer in work, not welfare. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think taking care of somebody, we should get
Well,
something. Get them in a treatment program and have
Before World War II, we had the Great Depression. And while I've been no fan of Roosevelt, but they did have the conservative work corps and so forth. You
Mhm.
wanted to be paid, and from the government unless you went out and helped build trails in the forest or you cleared trees or picked up neighborhoods that had.
Yeah, aren't we spending money for trash pickup and
Sure.
All
and
of that.
other things?
speedy eradication. We have a lot of invasive species here in. I mean, they use workforce to go address that problem.
Why
Are you talking
not?
about Democrats again? The species? Or the,
Yeah, no. So there's my other issue, right? Is we are building, Trump was building a wall on the southern, in leaving the western border out. I think that's where we need the wall right now because we are being invaded.
Just past Yuma?
Yeah, just past Yuma.
From Yuma all the way to Nevada.
Yeah, exactly. And check them when they're coming from Nevada. They're
But at any rate, you would ask the question and presented it, and this just freaks me out that people actually in the downtown areas, right? They're moving into the alleyways. I mean, here's your home, here's your backyard, and then just over the fence, there's tents.
They're setting up camp?
there's tents and an impromptu latrine. And that latrine might actually end
Just
up
the other
being
side of
your
your
backyard.
fence.
Isn't it more humane to let somebody completely destroy their life, live out when it's too cold, or to be using nature's facilities and just there on the street, leaving a drug paraphernalia everywhere? Isn't that more adult abuse than to have something that you're bringing to the table now?
I think so, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, it's one of the very few things I actually think Reagan made a big mistake on when he emptied out
The mental
institutions. And, we have never then built the capacity to treat those people in need to. And we need to do that. And
So
the drug treatment also.
What's happening at 24th Street in Van Buren now? What is that? What's the facility?
So there are facilities that do the treatment like that, but what you have in a lot of places at 24th Street in Van Buren, you basically have an empty hospital.
Why is that?
Because they didn't have enough business, so they moved out and left a beautiful hospital building.
So can't we use?
Yeah. My plan 2 years ago, and it's still my plan, assuming no one's bought it. And is look, it might cost $30 million. That's the number I was told to buy the facility, but it's a perfectly functional hospital.
Well, who's paying the taxes on it right now?
The hospital system still owns the property, but they have it up for sale and looking at redeveloping it. It's going to either end up as a bunch of high-end housing, or it's going to end up serving the broader community as a treatment facility.
That's a great. I mean, it's a serve the community.
Yeah.
It's right there. I'll tell you a funny story, Ron. When I was little, probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and my brothers, and we'd be home when we'd be 3 boys, 1 girl. We're causing a lot of problem, and my mom would come up. You kids are driving me to 24th Street in Van Buren, and we said, "But Mom, we can't even drive." We had no idea what she was saying.
Yeah.
But that's kind of funny. All right, so saying. You are now running for city council for Sal's seat.
Yeah, Sal is termed out.
So you've been behind the scenes for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
What are the key points that you want to bring to the table for that position?
Well, so a lot of it comes down to things like this. I mean, we just need to change our approach. Homelessness.
Yeah.
One of the
border security.
Border security, yes, although we don't have a lot of say in that.
But can you, as a city, say, you're not bringing anybody into our city?
No.
Okay.
That there's a state possibility. You can do that as a state. You can't do that as a city.
Okay.
So we don't. Driving lanes to do it.
Another one, Stanton. So
Yeah, it by about $14.
And when in San Francisco, aren't you?
And then I'm another 10 minutes. I take off my winter.
Right.
It's